Todo sobre el ataque de Donald Trump a Irán se ha construido sobre una mentira. La primera mentira, por supuesto, comienza 5 meses después de que Donald Trump gana su presidencia, ya que él se había autoproclamado como el presidente antiguerras. La segunda mentira fue su operación militar, la cual no fue para nada un rotundo éxito. La tercera mentira fue la filtración del Pentágono, la cual detallaba todo su fracaso dentro de esta operación militar. Filtración que Donald Trump dijo que no existía. Y cuando hay tantas mentiras dentro de la administración de Donald Trump, ¿sabes quién siempre termina involucrada? Así es, Carolyn Levitt. Y lo hizo en Fox, donde fue confrontada por este fracaso. Y en un colapso a gritos, se desmoronó por completo. Vamos a hablar de todo esto, pero para comenzar, hablemos de una de estas mentiras. Y eso es lo que Donald Trump dijo ayer en CNN, hablando del fracaso de su orden militar. Miren el clip.
Very unfair to the pilots that risk their lives for our country. And then they get fake news, New York Times and CNN, make up a phony story to get some hits. That's the only reason I cared about it, because those pilots were so brave. I've never seen anything like it. They flew into the hornet's nest and then they got hurt so badly by what the fake news wrote. And it was CNN, it was the New York Times, and they're both disgusting, really horrible groups of people. The pilots did an unbelievable job like nobody's ever seen. They hit pay dirt. You see where I guess you probably look, they call it the wound. You see where the wound is on the earth. And 3 of them right next to each other. Perfect. And they should be admired and respected for what they did. And the fake news, in order to try and hit me, the fake news made them look bad. But now they look really good again. So that was the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission. And it was also about the High Commission of Iran. Just said it was totally demolished.
Donald Trump sigue contradiciendo la inteligencia real que sale desde el Pentágono. Qué sorpresa que Donald Trump contradice el hecho de que las instalaciones que él asegura que fueron destruidas no fueron completamente destruidas. Realmente es totalmente repugnante y deshonesto que Donald Trump quiera utilizar el patriotismo estadounidense para que la gente no pueda criticar su fracasada orden militar. Prácticamente dice que si tú no afirmas que fue una operación exitosa, le está faltando el respeto a los militares. Primero que todo, eso no es cierto. Segundo, el que le falta realmente el respeto a los militares eres tú, Donald. Ya hemos hablado en este canal y hemos mostrado un clip de Donald Trump diciéndole a los soldados que perdieron su vida en batalla que eran unos simples perdedores. Y tercero, Pete Hegseth, tu secretario de defensa, o sea, el secretario de defensa de Estados Unidos, está admitiendo lo que Donald Trump no quiere admitir, y es que todo esto fue un fracaso. Y este es un punto muy importante de aclarar antes de llegar al tema de Carolyn Levitt. Y podemos verlo en este artículo justo aquí. Pete Hegseth y Rubio admiten a regañadientes que la filtración sobre Irán es cierta. 2 de los principales aliados de Donald Trump admitieron el miércoles que era cierta una explosiva filtración sobre los ataques a Irán, pero luego atacaron a quienes filtraron el informe de inteligencia que socavaba las afirmaciones del presidente sobre el éxito de los ataques estadounidenses a las instalaciones nucleares iraníes. Hablando el miércoles en los Países Bajos, donde Donald Trump asistía a una cumbre de la OTAN, el secretario de Defensa Pete Hegseth y el secretario del Estado Marco Rubio lanzaron una ofensiva agresiva después de ver una evaluación preliminar filtrada del Pentágono. Dijera que los bombardeos solo retrasaron las ambiciones nucleares de Irán por unos pocos meses. Trump había afirmado que los ataques equivalían a una destrucción total. Así que Pete Hegseth y Marco Rubio admitieron que todo esto es verdad. No solo la existencia de este informe que afirma todo esto, y que no es un invento como Donald Trump quiere hacerte creer, sino que todo es cierto. Y es algo que Carolyn Levitt no quiso reconocer en Fox, cuando se le preguntó por primera vez sobre este informe. Pero cuando fue confrontada fue por la razón de que esto fue un gran fracaso. Pero primero, por supuesto, tenemos que comenzar con su gran colapso, donde comenzó a gritar y decir de todo sobre las filtraciones. Miren el clip.
No other president in history could have ever dreamed of such a success, and that's exactly why the fake news media is now trying to demean and undermine the president. And we've seen this playbook be run before. You have hostile actors within the intelligence community who illegally leak bits and pieces of an intelligence assessment to push a fake news narrative. And that's what the CNN story was yesterday. And it's not a coincidence that it was written by the exact same CNN reporter who wrote the original story falsely alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. The American public are smarter than this, and they should know the truth. President Trump completely and totally obliterated the capability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon, and the world is safer today because of his historic efforts. But that reporter is a sheep and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
Me parece increíble que estén tachando de malos y de culpables a las personas que filtraron todo esto, cuando deberían de estar culpando y tachando de malos a personas realmente culpables, como por ejemplo el presidente de Estados Unidos, porque yo no sé si tú lo sepas, pero esta operación fracasó directamente por culpa de Donald Trump. Es que, como lo dije en varios videos anteriores, Irán se percató de que Estados Unidos iba a atacarlos por culpa de que Donald Trump publicó en Truth Social, ya saben, su red social personal, prácticamente que evacúen una ciudad de Irán. Esto puso atento a las autoridades iraníes y simplemente movieron el uranio de un punto A un punto B escondido. Esto ni siquiera es una suposición. El mismo vicepresidente de Estados Unidos, J.D. Vance, admitió que esto es verdad. Y con esto admitió que no pudieron cumplir su misión principal, que era destruir este uranio. Y cuando le preguntaron a Carolyn Levitt sobre este tema, simplemente no pudo controlarse. Miren el clip.
So there's one other question that remains out there, Caroline, and that's what happened to the nuclear material enriched to 60% that Iran already had in its possession. It's said to be about 900 pounds worth, enough for a number of bombs. The president believes that it was buried in one of those enrichment facilities. The director of the IAEA isn't so sure. Do you have evidence that you know exactly where it is?
I can tell you the United States had no indication that that enriched uranium was moved prior to the strikes, as I also saw falsely reported. But as for what's on the ground right now, it's buried under miles and miles of rubble because of the success of these strikes on Saturday evening. So anyone saying that they know just doesn't know. And what we do know is the capability of these weapons and the success of this strike, and the fact that the United States military hit their targets precisely, perfectly, and accurately, and we know what that means.
Cualquiera que diga que sabe, no sabe, ¿verdad? Qué bien, Carolyn Levitt, qué bien. Excepto sin contar por todos los informes que realmente sí existen, de camiones saliendo de bases iraníes llenos de uranio. Y todo esto porque se alertaron gracias a que Donald Trump hizo una publicación en Truth Social prácticamente avisándoles que los iban a atacar. Incluso el propio vicepresidente de Estados Unidos admitió que esto es verdad. Esto parece simplemente una broma de muy mal gusto. Y me alegra que Fox le haya hecho esta pregunta a Carolyn Levitt. Y por supuesto que no me sorprende su respuesta. Pero claro, esta es una administración en la que nadie debería de confiar. Y en este punto no vale la palabra de nadie dentro de esta administración. Específicamente cuando hablamos de temas militares. Pero Carolyn Levitt, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth no son las únicas personas de las cuales sus comentarios están siendo muy cuestionados. También vimos a Kari Lake, la cual fue completamente humillada en el Congreso. Miren el clip.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Ms. Lake, your actions as senior advisor are eroding American soft power around the globe. We should not be dismantling the agency that combats propaganda from the Chinese Communist Party, the Kremlin, and Tehran. Especially now, we need to be able to broadcast facts that counter Iranian state-run media spin that is essential to America's long-term interests. Your job is to tell the people of the world the truth about America. And because of that, there's a more fundamental issue I want to address today, and that is character. You see, Ms. Lake, we have both been public figures in Arizona for a long time. I've seen you in action, including your behavior in the last 2 elections. And let me be clear about something. The American people cannot believe a word you say. You ran for governor in Arizona in 2022. You lost fair and square. Instead of conceding, you embarrassed yourself and our state by lying again and again for years, blaming everything under the sun for your loss except for your own toxic politics. You lie about that election to this very day. You lied about signatures on mail-in ballots not matching those on file. Proven wrong. You lied about ballots being intentionally misprinted and then rejected in Republican areas. Total BS. You lied and said hundreds of thousands of ballots were mishandled. Zero evidence. You claimed fake ballots were snuck into batches before they were counted. Come on. You repeated these lies again and again, and you've said even recently, quote, I am the duly elected governor, they just stole it, unquote. Give me a break. Ms. Lake, your new role requires you to tell the truth. For decades, Whenever authoritarians and dictators suppressed the people and claimed victory in fraudulent elections, Voice of America countered those lies. I can't imagine how people fighting for democracy today and around the world can trust someone who has so shamelessly lied about her own election.
Will the gentleman yield to the
Ms.
question?
Lake, no, I will not.
Okay,
Ms.
well,
Lake,
just so you know,
to regain a
VOA
semblance of
wanted
your
to not call
credibility, I will not
Hamas
yield.
terrorists, so
Ms. Lake,
if we're
to
gonna
regain a
berate the
semblance of
witness,
your
we may as well be
credibility.
factual about the evidence.
Are you,
This is the
I did not-
gentleman's
I did not-
time. If you did not yield, you
I
may
do not
continue.
yield, and I'd like the time back. Ms. Lake, to regain a semblance of your credibility, are you finally ready to admit you lost the 2022 Arizona election?
It saddens me that you are from Arizona and you're okay with
That's
the
a
way
yes or no question,
It
Ms.
saddens
Lake.
me that you are from Arizona.
I guess the answer is no. Reclaiming my time.
The gentleman will suspend, will stop the clock. For all present, members are reminded to avoid engaging in personality toward the president and other members. Okay, and this is a member of the administration, so I would caution all to stay on the subjects and stay off of personalities,
Would love to.
please. Gentleman may continue.
Yes, and in this case, these are adjudicated lies. Courts of law have determined that these are lies. These are not me saying it. You didn't
Wow,
just
and the
lie to
courts-
the
the
press.
courts are really
You
awesome
took
right
those
now.
lies to court and lost again and again. Every one of your lawsuits failed. And a federal judge said that you were furthering false narratives that blamelessly undermine public trust. And you didn't just lie. You were formally sanctioned by the court. Ms. Lake, you have been sanctioned twice for providing false information to courts. Isn't that true? Yes or no?
I was brave enough to fight our shoddy elections, and the courts have not caught up.
That was
with-
a yes or no. I guess the answer is no. Let me reclaim my time. You have been sanctioned by both
What?
the
I can
United
tell-
States District Court and the Arizona Supreme Court for, quote, making false factual statements to the court. And you were sued for defamation by a Republican election official, Stephen Richer. He and his family were subjected to harassment and even death threats because of those lies. You told your supporters, Richer and fellow Republican County Supervisor Bill Gates, that they, quote, sabotaged Election Day. You accused them of deliberately printing the wrong image on ballots to jam tabulators and injecting hundreds of thousands of phony ballots. What a joke. And here's the thing, Ms. Lake. When it came down to it, you chickened out. You refused to defend those lies in court. You decided to take a default judgment. You are an adjudicated liar and a two-time political
Chairman, I move to
loser
take down
in
those
Arizona.
those
I have
words,
one
please.
final question.
Chairman,
Reclaiming my time.
I'd like
I
to
have one
take
final
down
question.
those
I'm not gonna
words.
yield.
It's the,
He's
it's
gotta
the
get his
gentleman's
fundraising
I do not
3
yield.
video.
seconds.
I have one final question
Get your
for you,
fundraising
Call
Ms.
video.
someone
Lake.
a
You'll have
liar.
a chance
That's
to
not
answer.
how
Let me
you
one
treat
final
other
question.
people that
The
are being
gentlelady
questioned.
will suspend, please.
La administración de Donald Trump está llena de mentirosos. Esto es lo que hacen, es lo único que saben hacer. Mentir por convivir, mentir para ganar más dinero, mentir al pueblo estadounidense, hacerle creer que todo está bien cuando nada está bien. Y claro, como siempre, jamás buscar el bienestar común. Únicamente buscar lo que les beneficia a ellos. Pero bueno, para mí lo más importante es saber qué te pareció este video, qué te pareció todo lo que escuchaste, lo entendiste, no lo entendiste. Para mí es fundamental que me lo pongas en los comentarios para saber cómo mejorar. Y también saber qué te gusta a ti. Está de más decirlo, pero si te gusta el contenido de política estadounidense, te va a encantar suscribirte al canal, ya que subo videos todos los días. Mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido a informarte diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.